Listen, for the next 48 hours, you will not be referring to me as Dennis P. My name is Thiago Silva. Chelsea traveled to the toilet bowl and emerged 3-0 winners. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. SCN! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Thiago Silva, aka Dennis P. And you already know this is another Chelsea match review, or more specifically, a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Tottenham Hotspur. But before I get into all that, I got to give you a quick shout out to our sponsors, Major League Socks. Listen, guys, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link is in the description. Okay, so Chelsea traveled to Tottenham in what was a thrilling derby match, London derby, and emerged 3-0 winners. Goal scorers, Thiago Silva, you already know. We had Rudiger, and then we also had a deflection off of Conte for the third. For this particular match review, we're going to be focusing on three different things. We're going to start with Tottenham's press and how effective it was in preventing Chelsea from playing out from the back. Then we're going to get into Thiago Silva and why I think he's still a world-class center back. And of course, we also have to touch on Thomas Tuchel as a tactician, how he's so brilliant and how he's able to affect the game from the sidelines to a devastating effect. Okay, so Chelsea came out in their famous 3-4-2-1 and were greeted by a very aggressive 4-3-2-1 Tottenham, who pressed them high up the pitch and made it very difficult for them to play out from the back. The reason why they were so successful in this position was because they put Son in the striker role, and he basically used his pace to devastating effect, pressing high up the pitch. And of course, he puts you under so much pressure. If you make a mistake, he can punish you as well. In behind him, they had a less aggressive Harry Kane and Lo Celso, who didn't really get after it as much as they could have, but they were basically sitting on Azpilicueta and Rudiger and made it very difficult for us to find passing angles for those guys. But really, the crux of it, the real meat of it came in the midfield, where you saw the likes of Ndombele, Dele Alli, and Højbjerg basically sitting on Jorginho and Kovacic. And you basically had Ndombele sitting on Jorginho, or on Kovacic actually, and then Dele Alli sitting on Jorginho, and you had basically Højbjerg in a free roll just coming in and cleaning up everywhere. Where if we tried to play out from the back and we worked it into the midfield, you saw one of Ndombele being really aggressive, or Dele Alli being really aggressive, and if that didn't work, you had Højbjerg coming in and cleaning up as well. Chelsea were doing a decent job of recycling the possession, but what we didn't see was a breakdown. We didn't see where Tottenham's press was breaking down anywhere. So as much as we worked it around the back of our back five, our back three, we saw it worked around quite nicely. What we didn't see was an instance where Chelsea could, break the lines and break their press. Because once we did, there were a few times in the first time where we just got into acres of space. But those opportunities were very few and far in between, mainly because Tottenham's press was so effective at the point of attack, with Son just harrowing after Thiago Silva and Rudiger and whatnot, just doing a really good job of pressing from the front. And then you had Højbjerg in the back, just basically playing as a free safety if you watch like NFL football, and just cleaning up everything that was left in the wake there. So they were really, really effective. They presented a lot of energy, and it just seemed like Chelsea weren't really willing to match the energy that was being displayed. And although we didn't really get caught out a lot, the problem was we weren't moving it quick enough, and we didn't have the numbers in the midfield to compensate for the extra midfielder that they had there. Now, one of the hallmarks of Thomas Tuchel's system with this Chelsea squad is the fact that they can play really fast and really direct, and they love to stay really narrow and compact, even when attacking. And that was one of the problems that we had in the first half. We were unable to basically assimilate that way because of the fact that the press was giving us a lot of problems and pulling apart the likes of Jorginho and Kovacic, where those two like to be maybe 5 to 10 meters apart. We were seeing that it was more like a 15 to 20 meters apart because we had to try and make the pitch a little bit wider. And that basically led to all sorts of problems, because when Chelsea are trying to break down the press and use these 5 to 10 meter passes, these 5 to 10 meter passes became 15 meter passes, and it allowed Tottenham time and space to close on the ball a lot faster than they normally would. And I think this is what Thomas Tuchel was talking about in the post-match when he talked about the fact that we really just did not have the energy and the commitment to play the way that we normally play. And it led to changes in the second half. But ultimately, the difference that I noticed was that the fact that Chelsea were no longer compact in the first half. We were a lot more expansive, and it allowed for Tottenham to be a lot more dangerous when they were pressing us as well as they were. Now, throughout the first half, I was just thinking to myself, will Tottenham be able to keep up this sort of pressure for the entire match? I completely understood that we needed another midfield in there, but at the same time, I was just thinking, how are they going to continue to play and play at this pace? And will it affect them? Because you look at their bench, they didn't really have much on the bench that can come in and give you like-for-like substitutions and allow you to press as aggressively as they were in the first half. So as much as I was wary of what was happening because it was a dangerous situation, I wasn't really too concerned because I really think that we had the weapons on the bench that could change the game. And I was actually thinking, I remember saying in the pre-match to some people that I think that Chelsea are going to try and win this late. And while it wasn't really late in the game, we did see that Tottenham did tire come the second half. Even within the first 5 to 10 minutes, you notice that they didn't have the same sort of energy or legs to get after it, and were unable to close the spaces as fast as they were in the first half. And of course, that has a lot to do with just the inclusion of N'Golo Kante, who's at this point in time, it's just like having a cheat code. This guy is... It should be illegal to bring that guy on in the second half of games to impact it, because he just basically drops a nuclear bomb in the middle of the pitch and just blows everything up. He was fantastic once again, and he changed the game again, obviously. But beyond that, he was running at tired legs. The likes of Ndombele, Dele Alli, Lo Celso was nowhere to be found in the game to be pretty much the entire match. They just couldn't cope with that extra bit of energy. And that it seemed like that was what Thomas Tuchel was looking for, just that last little bit of energy and a real understanding of the pitch, what we were trying to accomplish, staying really compact and attacking them really directly, putting them under pressure as well. And it worked to devastating effect. Obviously Chelsea changed the game in the second half, and Tottenham just had no answer. There was no plan B. There was nothing else they could have done. The first half game plan was fantastic, but when it came into the second half and Chelsea figured out that they needed an extra body in the midfield to compensate for, the likes of Højbjerg, who was basically just destroying everywhere, they had no answer, and Chelsea just completely took over the match. Now, don't get me wrong, I did think that Tottenham's game plan in the first half was actually quite good, and it led to a lot of problems. They're basically just hoping that they can use a lot of energy to force Chelsea into making mistakes and hopefully capitalize on them. And there are a few opportunities where they did force that mistake, but the problem was whenever we were 1 or 2 moves away from conceding a goal, there was Thiago Silva there to just clean up everything. His composure, his reading of the game, his understanding of the game, his organization was just on full display this match. And oh my God, before he scored the goal, he was my man of the match. And I'm being completely honest with you. I remember saying at halftime that Thiago Silva has just been phenomenal. I was saying that in one of the chats I was involved in. And it was bang on. Everything that came into a semi-dangerous position was just the domain of Thiago Silva. He bossed Son. He bossed Harry Kane. None of those guys had any real influence in the match, basically because they were dealing with a guy that was just playing a match, a match for the ages again. I just want to say this one point. When we're talking about world class, there's a lot of chatter on, Twitter and whatnot about world class and generational talent and whatnot. I just want people to know that my definition for a world class generational talent is Thiago Silva. Whenever you talk about world class, that is the comparison. That is what you're comparing everyone to. Somebody that's been playing at an extremely high level, elite level for umpteen years, and has not seen any drop off. That's what world-class talent is. It's not somebody that gives you a world-class performance one and two games and then falls off and then comes back and then falls off. He's consistently for decades now, it seems like, been playing world-class football. The guy's 37, you wouldn't even know it. That's what world-class is about. Class is permanent, man. Trust me, okay? When you have somebody at the back that is just so composed and understands the game so well, playing with three at the back, it makes the game easier for him now, because whereas before he used to play in a two and he'd have to be even more sharp, he's now got two guys flanking him that make it so much easier for him to like just basically clean up their mistakes. And he's done that incredibly well. My man of the match by far. I mean, you probably could have said N'Golo Kante's inclusion in the second half was what changed the match, but right from minute 1 to minute 90, Thiago Silva was just a stellar, just a mountain man, like just somebody that you could depend on defensively, offensively, and just like really just marshaling the game to perfection. So hats off to him. 37 in a couple days, and like the guy still looks like he can play for another 10 years, just because his reading of the game and understanding the game is just of that elite, world-class mentality. But the real star of the show, this game, for me, was Thomas Tuchel and his ability to assess what's happening on the pitch from the sidelines and just make the most perfect substitutions, make the most perfect adjustments that just completely turned the game on its head. Granted, I understand that like when you take off Mason Mount and you bring on N'Golo Kante, it's I mean, that just completely blows the game up anyways, because when you have N'Golo Kante coming onto the pitch, as I said before, he's the guy that he's not an X factor, he is the factor. It makes things a lot easier for any manager when you can call on him to come on the pitch and change the game. But ultimately, we've seen so many times now, just this season alone, where Thomas Tuchel has assessed what the team was done differently in the first half. Because let's keep in mind, a lot of what we're seeing right now from teams is not what they normally play. We didn't see Aston Villa play with a back five. We didn't see, I don't watch Zenit, but I know from having studied them and listened to people that have watched them extensively, they don't play with a back five. They play with a 5-4-1. So they changed their shape to match what Chelsea did. And again, with Tottenham today, nobody expected them to press as high as they did up the pitch and be as effective as they were. So most didn't even expect Son to play. So, you know, Thomas Tuchel's ability to like assess what's happening so quickly and change the game is, I mean, like one of three managers in the world can do that as effectively as he is right now. And for me, it's not just the fact that like he's assessing what's happening, but he also has the personnel on the bench to call upon that can change the game, which is, you know, not very many teams in Europe can call on that, man. Not many people can say, Conte, you're in. Werner, you're in. You just don't see a lot of teams in world football with that particular pedigree of talent, like from the top of the lineup right down to the bottom. But beyond that, like I just think that Thomas Tuchel perfectly assesses the game. Like he understood immediately. And the thing that was kind of like weird, listen to his post-match comments, and he said that one of the interviewers asked him if he noticed something on the pitch that forced him to make a change in the setup. And he's like, we didn't change our setup, or we didn't change our system. We played the exact same system, which leads me to believe that a breakdown in the communication between what Mason Mount was supposed to do, what Havertz was supposed to do, and what the manager was expecting them to do. Because if we didn't change the system, that means we probably weren't playing with two 10s then. It probably means that we're playing with two strikers and a midfield three. And for large chunks of the first half, pretty much the entire first half, it looked like we had a midfield two between Jorginho and Kovacic, and we weren't getting a whole lot of support from Kai Havertz or Mason Mount. It's either one of two things. It's either we changed the system, or Mason Mount was not doing what he was tactically deployed to do. And in either instance, it was Thomas Tuchel that recognizes what's going on and makes the necessary adjustment. It has to be so difficult to be able to look at what's happening on the pitch, assess it, and then pull off somebody like Mason Mount, who's obviously a fan favorite, obviously one of the, the real hubs of the team, a guy that is, a real key cog, to pull him out at halftime. And, just the balls to do that, I think, is just incredible. But then to go on and win 3-0 as a result, his changes are impacting the game to devastating effect. And like I said, there aren't very many managers that have that sort of effect on their teams. he is one of them, and it's for him that I think that Chelsea have the best chance of winning the title this year. Just the fact that this guy understands the game and he has the personnel to deliver. I mean, I'm at the point right now where I'm not in any position to question the decisions that Thomas Tuchel's making. I mean, most people would have said that, Ben Chilwell should be starting this game because of Son and all the pace that they have on the flanks when they're at full fitness and whatnot. But again, Alonso's still playing. And playing extremely well. Let's be honest. Since his inclusion with Thomas Tuchel, he's played, some flawless matches for us. Again, I do think that the genius of Thomas Tuchel is not the fact that he's just finding these perfect combinations and winning matches. It's the fact that when we're winning these matches, our weaknesses are not being exposed. So, he has the perfect balance on the pitch right now between, Alonso, who's a great ball striker, excellent in the air, combining really well down the left flank right now, a release on the left flank. And then because he lacks pace and stuff like that, and he's not necessarily the most defensively astute, you have Rudiger there to also, assist when those things start to break down. It's a perfect balance, all through the pitch. We're finding that Chelsea don't have one real standout player, not named N'Golo Kante, I'll say that right now, but they don't have one real standout player. Maybe Lukaku, but the system and the setup is what's winning us these matches. It's the fact that we're not being exposed for our weaknesses because we've compensated for it within our setup. And I mean, Thomas Tuchel, that is Thomas Tuchel in a nutshell, a guy that is able to quickly assess what's happening in a squad, assemble a unit that is ready to compete for him, ready to run through a wall for him, ready to die for him, and get results. That's what we've been doing the last 6, 7, 8 months or whatever it might be. We're just getting results based on the fact that everyone understands their role and our weaknesses are not being exposed right now. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up right there. Chelsea emerged 3-0 winners in the London derby against the Tottenham Hotspur. Who are these guys, man? What is this team, man? What's their identity? Isn't that with what's his face? Sherwood was saying earlier after the match, what's their identity? Who knows? They just choke every game, Every time you think that they're going to come out and emerge one way, they come out the next, They had a decent first half, and then they went all Spursy again, and we just eviscerated them. It must be hard to be a fan of Tottenham, I must say. It must be hard. But anyways, we move. Like I said, Chelsea. We weren't really that clinical up top. I really think that we had so many opportunities, especially in the second half, where, let's be honest, it could have been 5s, 6s, probably even 7s if Chelsea was in any way clinical. In any way. How many opportunities did we have in that second half that you thought, oh, for sure, surely. Warner walks in 1v1 with the keeper, surely. Kovacic walks in 1v1 the keeper. Obviously, just square it back and we got a goal. And we just couldn't take it, right? But these are early days. These are things that work themselves out in time. Lukaku, I still think is going to be an effective striker for us. He's proven to be a menace. Although I did think that Eric Dyer did have a pretty decent game, given the fact that he was dealing with a beast in Lukaku. He's all right. So hats off to him. Did well, son. But you still emerged 3-0 losers. So what do we do next? Where are we going? Shout out to Kepa, man. All you guys in the pre-match that were biting your nails, oh my God, Kepa's in I keep telling you guys, man. Chelsea do not concede high danger chances. We do not. Our defense is sound and stable. We don't surrender opportunities. And even when we do, Kepa's a capable keeper, man. People keep calling on the fact that we didn't win the FA Cup. That ball was long beyond him, long before he moved, man. That was a bullet, man. Nobody's stopping that. I don't care who it is. That was incredible. But anyways, I digress. Hats off to Kepa for coming in out from the cold and giving us a performance like that. He's already redeemed himself. Obviously, the Super Cup was a huge save for the Super Cup win, but he's still young and he's still learning too, and he's coming back into it. So hats off to him and congratulations for coming in and keeping a clean sheet. But we move, man. Now we go into the midweek and we got Aston Villa again. It's Aston Villa in the midweek in the Carabao Cup, and I expect to see a lot of rotation there. Maybe we'll see the likes of Ruben Loftus-Cheek get some time. Might see the likes of Malang Sarr. I mean, what are we going to do with the center back position? I mean, as much as we have numbers there and we don't really have a lot of problems there, we definitely need rest. and I don't want to see Rudiger playing in that Carabao Cup at all. He, of all people, who also needs a shout out, big goal and another clean sheet, and just a boss. He needs rest, and maybe that means Malang Sarr comes in. Maybe that means Christensen shifts over to the left side, and then we put maybe Chalobah in the middle, and somebody like Reece James at right wing back, or right center back, and then Callum at right wing back. I don't know. Who knows? Like I said, Tuchel, you cannot predict what his linemen are going to be, but rest assured, there's nothing that he can do that I won't back at this point in time. The guy understands what we're trying to do as a football club, and he has a clear vision of what his team's about and the strengths and weaknesses of the side as well. So, you know, I trust him totally, and I expect him to make the right decisions in that game before we move into the weekend, which is going to be another tough game against Man City. But until then, guys, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chels. Peace!